It's alright. Oh no. Oh no.
Hello, good morning. Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
So I think I'm going to put, of course, my camera and mic on off. I just wanted to be here. In case you need anything, you can text me or something.
That sounds good. So nice to meet you, Irazu.
Nice to
Are,
meet you too.
are you also in Houston?
No, I'm actually in Mexico City now.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Well, yeah, we're celebrating and having the World Cup festivity all around us. So yeah, it's fun.
We were, I was in San Diego with Francisco. It was pretty crazy there
Mhm.
for the
Oh,
Mexico
for the
game.
idol. Oh,
Yeah,
oh, you went there for the Mexico game. Yeah, we tend to
no,
become football fans at this time. I've never seen the football. I'm not interested in it unless it's a World Cup, and of course, even more if it's Mexico City. So yeah,
yeah. I'm just gonna fix my camera a little bit.
sure.
Um, yeah, no, I don't care that much about the game to go, but it was just we went for Ayla.
Oh yeah, he told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he went with his wife and he had a very good
Hmm.
time, it seems like.
Hmm. Yeah, she I know she wanted, I mean, she hadn't been back to San Diego since a long time ago. So I know she really wanted to go. It's really nice. I haven't been to San Diego in about 2.5 years, maybe. So yeah, I'm looking forward to go back again.
Oh, very nice.
Definitely.
Oh, good to
So
check.
we sent, by the way, we just sent, I launched a campaign to, with a link to all our, I mean, to our database, and it was 1,834 contacts,
That's amazing.
including the ones that were registered. I checked because some of those clients that registered, we had them already in our database, but with a different email. So I noticed they sign up with a different email, so we send them the link as well in the
Yeah.
new email.
So it's good. The people who sign up are going to be the very serious people.
Mhm.
So we have 23 like confirmed guests, and if 10 of them come, um,
23 from us.
yes,
Let me see. I didn't. I checked yesterday. Let me see. I have them
unless
here.
unless they have the link
Mm,
separately.
no, let me see how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. You're right. Yeah. 23.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
Yeah.
I checked this morning early to see if there was anyone else. Because again, some of those these clients, most of them registered with the original email that we had that they got our first campaign when we told them about this, about the webinar.
Oh, but
But now,
it's
mhm,
great. Even
mhm,
listen, one person signs up, it's a huge success. And even
I
if they
know.
don't today,
Hmm. Hmm.
they'll come another maybe in the future. And
Uh-huh.
on top of that, we're gonna record it, right, and send it to
Okay.
people who didn't sign up.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. That's great. Once you have that the recorded version, let me know so that I can share it as well.
Yeah, that's good. And
Sure.
we have a good number, so people are already waiting to join. So that's good.
Great. Tell me
Oh,
something, Matt, because
I have a feeling is Francisco is an attendee. Maybe hopefully he should be okay.
no, I don't think it's I joined with a link. I wanted to try the link that I shared with clients. So
Okay,
that's
go ahead.
this is the one, this is the link I clicked, the one that I shared with clients, not the one that you send me as participant.
Perfect. Okay.
So tell me something that you are the company that is organizing this, or and you handle, because I haven't had the chance to talk to Francisco about it. So you handle different regional centers, or what is it that you guys
Yeah,
do?
let me give you a proper
Hmm.
introduction. I know we were on
Hmm. Hmm.
WhatsApp chat. So correct, I'm the owner of New World Ventures. So
Hmm.
I run a broker dealer and
Hmm.
yes, we give investment advice to our clients and help them pick different regional centers and due diligence.
Hmm.
And we just it's a partnership, right? So I know obviously I never give like immigration law advice, but I've been doing this my whole life, basically almost 15 years,
Hmm.
and I'm registered so I can help clients in the US or abroad. I've been in Mexico City a few times to talk
Hmm.
about AB5 and we love it. So exactly like I help negotiate, I help do research, I represent the investors for the regional center selection.
Mm, okay. Okay. No, good to know because we have like I have a list of contacts, and sometimes clients ask us, and can you give us some options and different regional centers. So I always want to, or different programs or builders or whatever. I mean, for the different types of visas. So sometimes, so I mean, what we do is I've made a list of the contacts, who to refer them to. So in case somebody wants some information regarding an EB5 or a regional center, I should then send them to you, right? Directly.
Yeah, please, because
Mhm.
it's all benefit because at the end of the day, right, like they're talking directly to regional centers and they're trying to sell them,
Mhm.
and I have someone we can actually represent them.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so that would be wonderful. Let's go see if everyone's having a
Okay, yeah,
little
sure.
call. Is everyone able
To
to?
log in or anything. Yeah.
I have a feeling they're logging in as attendees,
Who, Francisco?
maybe.
Hmm.
Let
Let me
me
see.
see.
Let me text him.
Hello, Manuel. Are you able to log in? Okay.
Okay, but here.
Worst case, Irazu, you have to be the lawyer.
No, I'm not a lawyer, so that'll be a problem.
You'll be o-
That's Francisco.
you'll
Mhm.
be okay.
No, no. I
Ah,
won't. I'm not a lawyer because we were saying that if I was going to be your backup, Francisco, I'm like, no, I'm not a lawyer, so you don't need me to.
You could do it.
No, 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 I'm not yet.
hey,
I'm learning.
Francisco.
You know me. I'm learning. I'm learning. So that's what I'm going to be here. I think I'm going to turn off my camera. I just want to be here. And by the way, I was telling Matthew that we just sent, we launched a campaign and we sent it to 1,834 contacts. In
Cool.
those, we have the 23 contacts that registered from us. Most of them registered with the original email that we had, some of them with a different email. So we send them the link to both emails, the one they
Okay.
registered with and the other one. So yeah, I think it's gonna
Okay,
be fun.
nice.
Hmm.
Cool. How are you, Matt?
Hey, Francisco. I'm fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Looking forward to
Yeah.
this.
And I'm gonna turn off my,
Let me give me a second.
okay.
How many people do we have registered at the end?
We got 23.
Okay.
Yeah. And listen, that's amazing because those people are the most serious. And
Hmm.
those people, all you need is one person that signs up. You have a very successful campaign.
Yeah, and I imagine we can also share the recording, right?
Yep, of course.
Perfect.
How do I stop my messages from showing up? Hold on, guys.
Are you gonna turn? I don't know if you're gonna turn, Matt, the option of everyone having their cameras on or off, so that
I'm gonna keep, no, no, no.
you're
So
gonna keep
first,
the Zoom format or the webinar format.
so I'm gonna keep it all on.
Okay.
This is what I was thinking of doing. I'm gonna share my screen. Hey, Matt, if you're there, can you reach out to Manuel to see if he's doing the right, if he's logging into the right link? I just want to make sure he's there. Otherwise, I have to promote him once we're in. But I'm gonna basically I'm gonna share my screen and I'll do it
Mhm.
full size. I'll give everyone an introduction. Not everyone knows what EB5 is, so I'm gonna give a little history.
Mhm.
And Francisco, I was gonna think maybe you just explain the process of what EB5 is and how they can invest in different categories.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna just cue in Manuel to talk about like kind of how the ecosystem works. And you just briefly talk about source of funds.
Sure.
So we're just gonna have maybe 15 minutes, and then I'm going to oh, this is Manuel, I think. Hey, Manuel. Yeah, yeah. It's if you go on your calendar, there's a oh okay. So you're in the waiting room, or what's going on? Okay. It won't let you click on it? What do you mean? Yeah, it's a Luma link that'll go into your Zoom.
Mhm.
I can copy and paste the link to the WhatsApp messages.
Yeah, I'll give you. Yeah, we'll put a link on there in a second.
think-
So just stay tuned.
We can send the picture, the PDF. You want me to send the PDF where the link, if you click the link
Yeah.
will.
So Francisco just gave you the link that you can try to join. But I think that might be his link. So give me a second, okay? I'll call you right back.
The
Bye.
funny thing is that we're getting the same link, I guess.
Bye.
There's no difference between Francisco's link and my link.
Okay, so then that should be good.
My gosh.
Okay, and then let me stop sharing. What happened to... Okay, I want to stop the share. Okay. Really dark face. Okay. Look, I think he's probably in as an attendee. And what I can do is I'll just
But I am an attendee as well. I logged in as an attendee.
well,
I
he's
didn't.
probably in there as an attendee, and I can promote him to a panelist.
Oh, okay.
And worst case, we'll just run with it. I can.
Oh, I see. I'm at, yeah, I know I see. I'm a panelist and here are the attendees. 7 attendees in waiting room. Yeah, now I see.
Okay.
Okay. So should I'm going to turn off my camera then.
Yeah, you
You can change me if you want to attendees so that it doesn't make some noise,
Okay.
probably. Whatever you prefer.
I'll start the webinar in about 1 minute. Okay, and let me just tell that. Okay.
I'm gonna go grab a little bit of water.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Let's all right, let's just start and see how this works. And we'll give everyone a minute to roll in. Okay.
I think Manuel is requesting to be added as host or as participant.
Well, it's okay.
I mean, a panelist.
I can upgrade him.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Give up. We are going to be just starting in 1 minute. Hope everyone is doing well. Okay. Francisco, thank you for having us.
Of course. Welcome, everybody. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Absolutely. I am absolutely fantastic. Hello, Manuel. How are you?
Hey, good. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Hey, Manuel.
Hey, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay. So we've got people rolling in. We're gonna start in 1 second. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining. We are going to get started. We have a very nice crowd today. Francisco, thank you so much for joining us here today. Manuel, thank you for coming. We have some very exciting things to talk about in the immigration world. We're living in interesting times, and what we're here to really talk about is permanent residency. And I can tell everyone that there's a lot of options out there, and I know that immigration to the US hasn't been the easiest of late, but I'm really excited to bring in experts to talk about solutions to enter the US market through a program known as the EB-5 visa. And the theme of today is for a lot of Mexican nationals, they're very happy in their home country. And I know Mexico is a beautiful economy with a lot of business opportunities, but how can we use the US passport as a plan B option? What are the benefits? How can we earn a green card by investment and have a very practical solution, for market entry? So briefly before we get started, I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Matthew Khalili. I will be moderating today's conversation. And what I am is an investment banker, and I help immigrants specialize in investment solutions where they can earn visa and green cards by investment. And my expertise is in due diligence to help immigrants earn an immigration benefit and to make sure they keep their investments safe and successful and help them prosper. Um, Francisco, I know many people probably already know you from today, but can you give us a little introduction about you and your practice and your specialty?
Definitely, Matt. Thank you for putting this together, and thanks to everyone who joined us today. My name is Francisco Vidal. I'm the founder and managing attorney of Vidal Law Firm. We're a boutique business and investment, excuse me, business and investment immigration law firm. So we focus on representing investors, business owners, primarily from Mexico, but other parts of the world as well, who are interested in coming to the US to start businesses, to invest, and also for clients who are interested in having the benefit of a US visa or green card, who might be very well happy living in their home country, but you're interested in having a plan B, so to speak. So we're very excited to be here. We're very happy to talk about EB-5, which is a very exciting opportunity, and looking forward to it.
Thank you, Francisco. And we have here Manuel Ortiz, also in Houston, from the the developer, I guess the real estate side, right? Not the developer side, but what we call a regional center side. Manuel is an executive at First Pathway Partners. Manuel, can you introduce yourself to the audience as well?
Sure, and thank you everybody for being here as well. Really appreciate your time. I've been involved in EB5 since 2013 and in finance really since about 2003, both on the private equity side and on the EB5 side. And I've worked with over 1,000 families individually. I currently lead the global team for First Pathway Partners. We've been in the business since 2008 with a 100% track record in investors obtaining their permanent green card. Feel that right now we're probably at the best time in EB5 really since maybe about 2013, 14, and 15, because at that time you were seeing applications move very quickly. And then things started slowing down, and you started seeing, the first application, which they call the 526, taking years. I was working with investors that were from Mexico that had 526 applications that were taking 4 years. Right now, that application in our previous project, we had some that were taking 6 months. And so right now, from a processing standpoint, especially for the rural category, you're starting to see very fast processing times. EB5 got reauthorized in 2022 and added additional protections to investors as far as how funds are used, requirement of audits or third-party fund administrators, and those sorts of things. So from the protection side and the processing side, there couldn't be a better time. The only negative thing that I'll say, and I'll stop here, is that we have until September until this grandfathering thing expires. And so we're in a little bit of a short time frame. But I think the time is the best for EB5 right now. I grew up in Texas. I grew up on the border with Mexico. I've been involved really early on in the Mexican market as well. And it's just a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Manuel. Okay, so we're gonna dive into this a little bit, and I'm gonna let everyone here today. If you guys have questions, we want this to be dynamic. There is a question and answer, a Q&A function on the bottom of your Zoom. Feel free to pop in your questions, and we'll try our best to answer it. And if anyone wants us to say anything in Spanish, please request that in the Q&A, and we'll be happy to. We'll be able to answer it in Spanish and English. Okay, so we're going to dive in with a short presentation on EB5 and how it works. But as we discussed, we're here to talk about EB5 as your plan B. Okay, so before we kind of get into it, I want to talk a little bit just about the history of EB5. It's been around for 35 years. And over $50 billion in capital has been deployed in EB5 for investors. And I would say several hundred thousands of people since its history have gotten green card permanent residency since then. And the majority of people who have been able to get a return on investment. So what's interesting about the history of EB5, number one, it's been around a very long time, but what's most exciting about it is the majority of investment has been happening more recently, right? So it's becoming more popular and more mainstream as a source of alternative capital in the US, and it carries a lot of benefits. In this 35 years, I would say the most important thing is we had something known as the Reform and Integrity Act. And basically what happened is in 2022, we made a lot of legislative reform that's carried immense protection for investors and to be able to keep, I guess, investment safe, investment transparent. And since we've integrated that, there's been over a 90% approval rate for people applying what's called their 526E, which is just a fancy way of saying your EB5 application. 90% of those people have been approved under this new RIA. We have data from 2024. We don't know what 2025 is, but in 2024, $4 billion in EB5 capital has been deployed, right? And since 2022, it's been $6 billion. So you could see that this program has been accelerating in popularity quite a bit. And we have something known as regional centers. which regional centers are basically the license to be able to do EB5 in a territory. There's over 500 licensed authorities to be able to do EB5 right now. So we're going to dive a little bit more into this and have a more dynamic conversation about EB5. But Francisco, could you tell us a little bit about the legal process, like how people apply, how it works a little bit, and we're going to shed into more detail, maybe after we kind of hear your comments.
Yes, for sure. So it all starts with making the decision to explore a permanent residency in the United States. And once a family or individual makes that decision, then the very first step is usually to reach out to a professional involved in the EB5 universe. That could be somebody like you, Matt, that does due diligence and assists investors in their journey through the EB5 investment process, or it could also be with somebody like Manuel, who is on the regional center side, or myself, an immigration attorney. But the first step in the process is to select in which project to invest in order to apply for EB5. And in the selection process, there's many important aspects that you and Manuel will touch on, but it is a delicate process. It's a substantial investment. So needless to say, it's very important to do a good research, be informed of the risks involved in making the investment, and do so in a way to mitigate those risks as much as possible. It is a at-risk investment, so you cannot completely eliminate the risk out of the EB5 equation, but with competent and professional and honest professionals as yourselves, you can mitigate those risks and make an educated and informed decision for your EB5 investment. Once you've selected the project in which you're going to invest, then you work with your immigration attorney in order to start preparing the application, which primarily involves the source and path of funds. For EB5, it's very important that we document very meticulously and in detail the where the money comes from. What is the source of your investment? Different from, for example, E2 visas, which are very popular for Mexican nationals, where the source of investment funds is relatively light in comparison to EB5. With EB5, we have to be a lot more diligent. There's a lot more details involved, and also the span of time that we have to go back is 7 years. So oftentimes, it becomes a challenge, right? Because not every time, not every client is able to produce, for numerous reasons, all the documentation that will allow us to present a link and the movement of funds. So doing the source of funds due diligence with your immigration attorney is super important. And once you are given the green light by your immigration attorney, and you have that assurance, that legal assurance that you will be able to produce the documents in order to chart out that source and path of funds, then you can proceed and with the investment, right? So the application starts with the preparation of the source of funds, working with your immigration attorney. Eventually, the application packet is completed. We try to make it as painless as possible. Obviously, it's a lot of work that needs to be done, but we try to file applications, in a couple of months. We try to be quick and make it as easy as possible for our clients. And once we present the application, then it depends on the particular client, right? But if you're in Mexico, for example, and you don't live in the United States and don't have plans to relocate to the United States just yet, the application is there's two applications processes. You can, if you're in the United States, you can apply for the EB5 program through the I-526 e-filing, but also you can apply for adjustment of status work permit, and travel permit. However, if you're in Mexico, all you have to do is file the I-526E, right, which is the EB-5 application. And eventually, when that is approved, then you can proceed with the application of your green card through the U.S. consulate in Ciudad Juarez. Once you go through that process, then you have a green card, which is a temporary 2-year green card. And it is conditioned upon showing in 2 years that your investment generated at least 10 full-time jobs. And once you show that through an I-829 filing, then the conditions on your green card are removed. You receive a permanent green card, and you are a permanent legal resident in the United States. So, in a nutshell, that is the process. I know I kind of breezed through it, but again, if you've got questions, please put them on our chat, and we'll be happy to address those for you.
Thank you, Francisco. And just to kind of sum it up, right? I know we showed a little bit of a timeline on the previous slide, but Francisco, from the time when one invests in a project, what is the range of time that it takes to earn that conditional green card? And can you tell people about the type of investments and how that could maybe alter that timeline as well?
For sure. So there is different categories of projects in which you can invest. There's rural projects, there's targeted employment area projects, which include rural projects. But right now, USCIS is prioritizing investments in rural projects. So if you invest in a rural project, the turnaround time is very fast. We've gotten approvals in 6 months. If your investment is not in a rural project, then the EB-5 application can take longer. We've seen 1.5 years. We've even seen 2 years. So there is quite a significant difference in processing times depending on the project in which you invest. And the investment amounts also differ. If you invest in a project that is located on a targeted employment area, then the investment amount drops to 800,000. If the project is not in a targeted employment area, then the investment is 1.05 million. And from the time that you start the process, if it's a rural project, to the time you get your green card, it can be 2 years. Even though the I-526E, which is the EB-5 application, is quick, 6 months, 8 months. After that approval, then you have to go through the green card application process, which can be done again through an adjustment of status if you're in the United States, and that can take 1 year, 1.5 years. If you're in Mexico and you're doing your green card application through the U.S. consulate in Ciudad Juarez, times fluctuate quite often, but we're seeing about a couple of years, 1.5 years, 2 years. So it's about, depending again on the type of project that you invest in, 1.5 years, 2-year process at minimum.
Thank you, Francisco. So just to be clear, if someone wants the fastest way to come to the US, right, from the moment they apply and invest in a project, it goes into a rural project, you're seeing 6 to 12 months for conditional green card approval. And the law is 21 months when they got conditional green card to remove those conditions. And if, Francisco, what you're saying is if they're in the US and they apply, they can actually stay in the US until they give green card approval. Is that correct?
That's right, through an adjustment of status. So you can do what's called a concurrent filing, where you file the EB-5 application, the I-526E, along with an application for an adjustment of status, the I-485, an application for a work permit and travel permit. And this is for the investor and his or her family. So the whole family can go through this adjustment of status process without leaving the United States, which is huge.
Thank you, Francisco. And Manuel, since you're the expert on the project side, are rural projects better than these high unemployment? What's really the difference? And are you seeing more TA projects or non-TA projects? Can you break down maybe the difference?
For sure. And then I'd also like to backtrack on one thing that you said that I thought was really important is that when you start looking at the term regional center, which is just the term to refer to companies like ours, it really is just a basic, like a license to do an EB5 project somewhere. Just in the early days, EB5 was highly localized. So, like, for example, if you were located in Dallas, people would always say, oh, you're a regional center. Where? Oh, well, we're located in Dallas. Great. But as EB5 started getting more and more popular, companies started expanding out of their local markets and had regional centers or approvals to do projects in multiple states. And that's why that term actually stayed. To look at companies like us, you would look at us more like private lenders or fund managers would be probably the best way to think of it. So we're no different, in some of our projects than a Wells Fargo or a JP Morgan, where we're providing a loan to the developer. So I think that's really important. And the type of projects that we're now seeing more of because of the reauthorization of EB5 and the emphasis on rural projects and priority processing is more rural projects. So projects that are located in an area with a population of less than 20,000, there are other ways to qualify a rural project, but we're seeing more of those. Historically, EB5 had more urban projects, and so now it expanded into the rural area. It's not really to say that one is better than the other. I would say that there's always this social media marketing buzz that'll say, hey, you want to invest in an urban project because they're safer. They're in downtown Dallas. They're not out in the middle of nowhere. If you look historically at project failures, you have just as many in urban areas that failed and investors lost their money, right? So really, what does that mean? What it means is that what you really want to focus on is the project structure. How is it structured conservatively to protect investors? And so I think that's the most important part. And then you start getting into what percentage of the loan is relative to the cost of the project. So if the project costs, let's say $20 million, is the EB5 loan for $18 million? Because there you don't have much margin for error. Or is it a 50% loan where it's $10 million for a $20 million project? Those are the things that you have to figure out, but it's not even as simple as that, because then you have to think about what the value of the asset is. If you're loaning 50% something that is worth nothing, you've got 50% of nothing, right? So you really have to dig deep into the due diligence process. And that's where I think on the analysis side, people like you, Matthew, add a lot of value because you're an unbiased person in this, where you're just evaluating multiple projects and looking for those protections for investors. And where Francisco comes in is also just evaluating the immigration side, because we have to structure it conservatively from the immigration perspective, right? The government is looking at two things from the EB5 investor. One of them is, where did the money come from? And the second requirement is, did that investor actually create 10 jobs? And I would just mention one thing really quickly. On those jobs, it's not necessarily that they're counting the people that are working at the project. If you're dealing with a restaurant or something like that, that's small, maybe. But typically these big commercial projects, the job creation, it's actually tied to the money spent on a project and just a formula that USCIS uses that says this type of project at this area and this cost is going to create X jobs, indirect jobs, direct jobs, construction jobs, all of those things. And that's added into a basket. So we have to structure it conservatively, both from the investment side and the immigration side, and partnering with great people like you and like Francisco are the way that investors are able to just decipher through all of the noise that's out there.
Thank you, Manuel. So just to sum everything up, right? The different people involved, you need a team to help you with the project. You have your attorney. Attorney does source of funds, helps you with your application, advises you on the legal side. It's an absolute must. Okay. Then you have the regional center, right? And what Manuel was saying, that term is you need some sort of license entity that approves a project, and you need basically what Manuel's role is. He helps with, he is the regional center and he is the project fund manager that helps invest in the project, which is usually an independent entity. Okay. And I'm the broker dealer. I do independent research for the investors to help them examine the project, right? So generally to think about it is when you buy real estate, Usually there's a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, and we both work together to help you, to help you with the transaction. And your investment is on a different track than your green card, right? So we want to make sure to get both right. So when you invest in a project, the project has to complete the construction and it needs to be approved. When those two things happen, you earn a green card. And then the investment has to be a good investment for you to earn your money back. And that's what we try to do. We try to make both those things happen. Okay. Now, we can talk a little bit more as we go on with source of funds and due diligence. But, I'm seeing a lot of questions, and I want to kind of dive in actually to more just personal things. So this is more understandable for everyone. So we have a question here in Spanish that we're just going to start for. I can try. I don't know if Francisco, you can see the Q&A and you can ask the question, or I'll do my best to use my limited Spanish to do so.
Let me see. I'm trying to look for, I see the webinar chat, but I don't think that is
I'll,
it.
I'll do my best. El proceso es más fácil si yo soy tú o es completamente independiente, sobre todo en el papel de comparación de recursos de últimos 7 años. So
Okay. That was
hopefully,
very good, Matthew.
I'm actually pretty impressed with that. That is, I'll
I
let you
think
take it, Francisco, because it's
you,
more
you
on the
can
legal
take that
side.
question, Matt, in Spanish. You can answer it in Spanish.
I don't know about that, but I'll let you. I'll let you maybe answer that, and we can answer some more questions we have here.
For sure. So the question is whether should I answer in Spanish?
Yes, please.
Ok. La pregunta es si el proceso de la EB5 es más sencillo si la persona que me está solicitando la EB5 tiene una visa E2, contemplando el origen de fondos y los 7 años de comprobación de origen de fondos que se tienen que presentar para EB5. Puede ser, pero no, puede ser porque para solicitar una E2 tuviste que haber también preparado en la solicitud un origen de fondos, ¿no? Para explicar de dónde vino el dinero que invertiste para tramitar tu visa E2. Sin embargo, y agrego que muchos de nuestros clientes, a quienes ayudamos con sus trámites de residencia B5, son clientes a quienes primero les ayudamos con la obtención de una visa E2. Y lo que encontramos es que ayuda en el sentido que estamos familiarizados muy bien con el cliente, sus negocios, sus ingresos, su historial migratorio. En ese sentido ayuda. Sin embargo, para la comprobación de origen de fondos para un proceso EB5, invariablemente es como un poquito empezar de nuevo, ¿no? O sea, porque tenemos que irnos atrás 7 años. Muchas veces el recurso que se está utilizando para invertir EB5 no es el mismo que se utilizó para E2. Muchos de nuestros clientes tienen diversos negocios, diferentes fuentes de ingresos. eh, el dinero que se utiliza para EB5 puede ser ahorros, la venta de una propiedad, en fin, pueden haber muchas diferentes fuentes del origen de este dinero y entonces el análisis que se tiene que hacer para EB5 en realidad es independiente a lo que se hizo para la visa E2.
Thank you, Francisco. So another question we have, if you can help answer, Francisco. So basically, when people invest in these EB5 projects, is the money back guaranteed? Is there risk involved? What is the investment like when they invest in these projects?
That's a very good question and one that we often get from clients. And the law states that in order to qualify for an EB5 green card, you have to show that your investment is at risk. So it is an at-risk investment. We often hear from investor clients um, that they would like to not have that risk, right? And it's a natural question, right? I mean, obviously, if I was investing for an EB5 and eliminating all risk was an option, then that would be the one I would go for. But that's not the way EB5 works. We must show that there is that it is an investment that is at risk. And of course, the goal is to help clients mitigate that risk as much as possible.
Thank you, Francisco. And just to shed a little data on this, I mentioned earlier, like at present, there's over 500 regional centers. I'd say that there's 20 regional centers that do 80% of all EB5 investments. And those 20, generally at this moment, the data is showing it's got about a 90% rate of being able to return people's capital, right? And it has at least as much, if not even a higher percentage of earning green cards. So historically, amongst, I would say, the top players, it's been a more successful program than not. Of course, it's very important to do your research on every project. Just because a regional center has a good history doesn't mean you should trust it automatically. And maybe Manuel, I mean, if you can chime in, are people earning like a high return on investment on a lot of like projects you're seeing? And generally, how are these projects structured? Do I own a piece of the project that I'm investing in?
Yeah, so really good questions there, Matthew. And I would say that when investors just think about investments, there are very few investments that are risk-free, treasury bonds maybe. But whenever you're investing in real estate, there is going to be that risk component to it. And of course, as Francisco said, it's also a part of the legislation. But I would say that that doesn't prevent you from being able to invest in a conservative project. Now, what I'll say as well is that when investors think of investment strategy, they'll typically say, great, what are my returns? But often they also forget that an investment strategy is conservation of capital, right? And that's the approach that I would take with EB5 when you're looking at it, is to say, okay, how do I invest in something and I conserve my money and don't lose it? The returns of EB5 are not going to be market type of returns. They are going to be lower. But I would say the conservation of capital thing is one very important thing for investors to look at, especially when you're dealing with capital that sometimes, in some cases, EB5 investors have been generating that through family business over years, right? Or different just family lines that come over 100 years, sometimes businesses that are that old. So the conservation of capital play, I think, is a really important thing. And then I would say that the way that you protect investors is by basically putting them right now, right? It's a very important time, is putting them in senior loans, which I would think is the most conservative aspect of EB5 in the capital stack. But we're not always going to be in that position. And what I mean by that is when we're the only lender to the project. So taking a $20 million example of a project cost, let's say we're loaning 15 million of the 20, we're the only bank in town, which means that the EB5 investors are going to be first priority of repayment. We're lending the developer $15 million so that they can develop their project. The developer has to pay interest to us just like any other bank. We would keep our management fee and investors would get some form of a return. And the developer has a time certain to pay that loan back. If they don't pay it back, because we're the only bank, we can seize the property and then sell it at a discount and get investor capital back that way. That only works right now because interest rates are still relatively high. Once interest rates drop, right, then what will end up happening is traditional banks will be the ones that will make the most of the loans. And because interest rates are low, there's not enough for us to get a management fee for managing the fund. And now you'll have a big bank, EB5 in a subordinate position. And so if something goes wrong, that big bank gets paid back first. EB5 gets left in the second position. And typically what you find is that the bigger bank, the bank with priority, is the one that's actually calling the shots, has the most power, and they get paid back first. So right now there's a really what I call a golden window of opportunity for investors to get in the most conservative part of the capital stack at a time when USCIS is also processing applications much quicker than they have in the past. So it really is a good time for EB5, both from the investment and the immigration side.
Yeah, thank you, Manuel. And for those of you who don't know, like these term capital stack and some of this priority, basically what Manuel is saying, getting basically capital is kind of like a cake, right? So when you want to buy a house in America, you put 20% down, right? That's called developer equity. And then a bank wants to come and put and give you the rest of that money. That's a senior loan. Sometimes people in this industry, they get a second loan. Sometimes they get other sources of capital, right? And there's all different types of capital. So when Manuel's saying you get paid back first, right? That's usually the level of risk and return versus safety, right? So whoever gets their money back first in an investment is generally the safest part of the capital stack, right? And what Manuel is saying, because interest rates are high, a lot of people are able to do that in EB5. So no, thank you, Manuel, for detailing that. So we have a few questions that are showing up right now. So one question, Francisco, that's being asked is for EB5 investors, can they get a loan and use that loan to invest in EB5, or do they have to have liquid cash and use their actual cash or savings to invest?
No, loans are allowed for for EB5 investments. So we've helped clients whose part or most of the proceeds come from a loan, and that is allowed. So it can be a back-to-back loan, it can be a loan secured by property, or it can be just a loan from a financial institution or even a company. We've had clients who've taken out loans from their own companies, and it is allowed for EB5.
Okay, and Francisco, when you make an EB5 investment, who's does it include? Who does it include specifically?
Good question. So there is a principal applicant who must show that he or she has made the investment. So, but that person can include his or her family. So spouse and children under 21 years old can be included in the EB5 process.
Okay, great. So one investment covers basically the entire family with children under 21, unmarried children.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Manuel, another question we're getting is how long does it generally take for people to get their money back?
And so I would say that the best way to think about this is that sometimes the timelines can be a little confusing for people. And the best way that I explain this is that whenever you think of EB5, think about two processes moving in parallel but independent of each other. On one side, you'll have the investment timeline, and on the other side, you'll have the immigration timeline. So we've already talked about how applications are getting approved a little quicker than before and everything else. That's the immigration timeline. Separate, but also moving in parallel, but independent, is the investment timeline. And the investment timeline is just basically the terms of the loan from us to the developer. So if we basically do a 4-year loan to a developer, a minimum of 4 years, maximum of 6 years, for example, the developer has a minimum of 4 years to pay back the loan for investors to get their capital back, or a maximum of 6 years. Sometimes you have these extensions that can be 2 or 3 years there, just because from an investment standpoint, you want to be conservative. The best example of that is, let's say that you were going to build something in 2016 and you were projecting a 2020 exit. Now you're in the pandemic. And what you built, now that you're projecting to exit in 2020, you're probably going to have to extend because assets lost the value that were worth 100 million, maybe now are worth 25, right? So those extensions are there to protect investors in the event that there's some form of macroeconomic hardship, but it's just tied to the investment timeline. You may be able to check all the immigration timelines quicker, but you're held onto the contract that you signed for the loan process.
Yeah, thank you, Manuel. So I'll just tell you from my perspective, think about building a house in America, just a single family house. The fastest I've ever seen houses getting built in a lot of these markets, you have to do horizontal, meaning demolition, you have to get permits, then you have to build it vertically. It can take 2 years to just build a single family house in a lot of areas, right? And in EB5, right? Generally, we're building big projects like a hotel, an apartment building, all sorts of like bigger construction projects. You have to build it, you have to rent it, and then, or you have to be able to take time to sell it. So really the soonest I've ever seen a real project ever take place is 3 years. Okay. But from my experience, the vast majority of projects can take 4 to 7 years. And there's always a trade-off, right? A lot of projects that ask for a longer term, they end up giving you something else in return. And projects that are very shorter, in general, my experience, there's something else you're kind of giving for that, right? And Francisco, there's something known as
One,
this.
one quick thing, because you brought up a really important point that I want to touch on too, that I think
Sure.
is like outstanding, is that whenever you're building these projects, the majority of EB5 projects that you find are going to be construction and a little bit larger cost, because that's how you get the most job creation. So that's really important. But to your point of when you build these things, they can take 24 to 26 months to build. And then on top of that, you need maybe another 2 years to stabilize the project. And that's why you have that another 2 or 3 years to stabilize that, which means you build something. By the time you rent apartments or the hotel gets stabilized in terms of people renting rooms, it's probably going to take another 2 years. Once you have the asset stabilized, it makes it attractive for somebody else to come and buy it, right? Because people want to buy cash flow. So that's just the interplay that you kind of have. You're building something, stabilizing it, and then looking to sell or refinance that.
Yeah, and just it's helpful for the audience, right, Manuel? This is what we call our exit strategy in these projects. There's all sorts of different ways projects can exit, right? So what you're saying is something has to get built. If you're a senior loan, right, you need to be taken out. So one way to get taken out, just like you own a house, interest rates come down, you want to refinance a house, you could sell your house and pay everyone back, right? Sometimes a property can generate income and people can pay people back from income. So it's important to know, how you're invested in a project, because you can be invested as equity, you can be a loan, you could be a second loan. There's different ways. So how you're invested in a project really helps understand how you're going to get your money back. And Manuel, from your experience as being a senior loan, an easier way to exit.
Yes, for sure. Because if you're not in the senior loan, basically that senior lender that sits on top of EB5 is the one that's really going to decide when you get out. And so EB5 is just basically trapped in the middle. And if the project doesn't work out, that senior lender is the one that gets paid back first. And then whatever's left over goes to the EB5 investors. And then the developer is the one that really is the one at the most risk.
Thank you. And Francisco, I would say EB5 can be very nuanced, right? I know it sounds more complicated than it is sometimes, but how specifically do jobs get created and how do they usually get assigned to investors?
So each investor must show that his or her investment generated at least 10 full-time jobs. When when the investment is made in a project, in a regional center project, then there's advantages to that as opposed to applying for an EB5 through a direct investment, your own project, for instance. With the regional center investment program, as you pointed out earlier, the jobs that are created are calculated using a formula. And so not only do the jobs that are created directly, let's say, for instance, the construction workers that are building the hotel, but also indirect and induced jobs are counted as well. So perhaps the employees at the engineering firm or the architects at the architecture firm, and other indirect and induced jobs that were created by the project are counted. So when a regional investment submits a project for approval to immigration, immigration then calculates how many jobs are that project is going to create. And let's say it's 100 jobs, just to make the math easy. Well, then that tells you that that project can fit 10 investors, right? Because each of them has to create 10 jobs. So there's room for 10 investors in that particular project. So that's how, in very simple terms, the job creation is calculated for EB5.
Yeah, thank you, Francisco. And just to kind of summarize what you said so the audience understands, right? So a project that needs to get developed needs to submit a plan and a study, right, to be able to be approved. And what
Mhm.
USAS approves is the job creation and how many jobs is going to be created. So 90, generally, rule of thumb, Francisco, about 90% of jobs come from construction, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken.
Mhm.
Okay. So what that means, if a project is approved for 1,000 jobs, okay, that means up to 100 people can get their visas from that project. So 10 jobs per, investor. Okay. So if a project, just for round numbers, is 100 million, okay, if they spend all 100 million, all 1,000 jobs get created, right? If a project spends 50 million, then only half the jobs get created. So, Manuel, when it comes to kind of construction and earning green cards, right? Can you explain the dynamics of what a responsibility is for the regional center and managers like yourself to make sure these jobs actually get created?
Yeah, and to go back to what I mentioned when we started, is that we have 100% track record of investors creating jobs going back to 2008. And it's because we've used the same methodology all of these years. We don't like to get too creative. It's kind of boring, but at the same time, it actually works. And so I think that's really important. For the project that we have right now, for example, it's projected to create 2,000 jobs. That means that we could actually have 200 investors in this project. 200 times 10, 2,000, right? But what we did was we said, yeah, that's a little aggressive. We're not going to do that. And we're only going to raise funds from 79 investors. So we know that the minimum required for 79 investors is 790 jobs. But our project's going to create over 2,000. All jobs are going to be created just with the construction jobs, right? So that's super conservative. The gamble to the investor is that the project doesn't get built, right? Because if it's built, all the jobs are basically created and everything else after that is just extra. So what you do to protect investors on the risky part, getting the project built, is we require the developer to put a construction guarantee, which basically means that they're personally liable, not at the corporate level, at the personal level. It basically says, I'm personally guaranteeing that this project will get built. So if they walk off of the construction site, they're personally liable. One of the biggest risks to a lot of EB5 projects out there is that it never starts construction. And you would think, oh, how often does that happen? A lot. And so if you just look at a lot of the projects that have failed, some of them never even started. And so for us, we're very fortunate. The one that we have is already very advanced in the construction process. But that's the way to think about it. Construction jobs, job creation, just tied to the asset actually getting built. And are there any guarantees there with the developer?
Okay, thank you, Manuel. Francisco, let's just backtrack on the immigration side, right? Like, I see a lot of Mexicans are very familiar with the E2 and the benefits of the E2. What are some unique benefits with EB5 if you compare it against the E2 visa? Why should one even look at an EB5 visa for their case?
What we're seeing is that, well, speaking specifically about the distinction between an E2 and a green card. So with an E2 visa, it's a non-immigrant visa. It's a temporary benefit. For Mexican nationals, the E2 visas are given for 4 years, and then you must renew that visa. And the renewal oftentimes is more complicated than the initial obtention of the E2 visa. So it adds a stress element, knowing that you've got 4 years, but really within two and a half, you got to start thinking about how your business is doing, whether you have a good case for renewing your E2. And what we've seen in our experience is that clients want to, let's say, give it a shot, try it out. Moving from Mexico to the US, although we're neighboring countries, it's a very different living experience. It's a cultural shock. Our clients oftentimes are not sure as to whether that change is going to sit well with the family, and so they try it out. But oftentimes, you know, kids get accustomed to living here, they make friends, the family starts settling very well, they enjoy the quality of living, education, et cetera, and they start thinking long term. And they want to eliminate the stress out of having to uh, have their permanence in the US tied to an E2 visa that must be renewed and subject to the discretion of a consular officer. And so with a green card, it's a permanent benefit. And so you eliminate that stress. It's a benefit that is for the principal investor, for his or her family, and it allows you to live here in the US and study here, work here. You have really no limitations in terms of what you can do here in the United States. The one thing you cannot do is you cannot vote. You know, there are certain positions in government that you must be a U.S. citizen in order to hold those offices. But your kids can live here, you can work, your spouse can work, and very importantly, you can qualify for your U.S. passport after 5 years. And so it is really a game changer, and we've seen a lot of our E2 clients that have gone through that experience where now there's, you know, Francisco, you know, my kids are very happy, I'm very happy, my wife is very happy, my husband is very happy. We really want to see something more long term, you know, and that's when they start looking at EB5 as a really good program to seek that permanence with regards to their permanence in the US.
Thank you, Francisco. And just to comment, right, like if a child turns over 21, you can't really help them on an E2 visa anymore, right? So you start an E2 visa, they're 18, 19. When it comes to renew, right, that child doesn't have those benefits. And on EB5, if they're a permanent resident now and they're in the state, if they want to go to public school, they're also being able to access in-state tuition. So sometimes you can use EB5 to save people money.
That's
Okay.
right.
One thing to mention really quick too that I think is really important is I was working with a family from Mexico, and the son was actually studying in San Antonio, and he was able to get an internship with JP Morgan. Super happy there. And he was gonna graduate, and I guess like the way JP Morgan works, sometimes they have like franchises. And so they do the owners because they were from Mexico as well. And they said, hey, I'd like to stay here and work after school. Once I graduate, I'd like to basically stay here. And they said, we don't sponsor. And at that time, EB5 was $500,000. And so the father decided, no, I don't want to do EB5. And so the son moved back to Mexico, ended up getting a job in oil and gas in Nigeria, ended up hating it, ended up going back to Mexico, and now he's in the process of getting his Spanish passport. And now the father can't afford to get the EB5 anymore because now it's 800, right? So like those sorts of things are just important to consider as you're considering EB5, but then also know that, whether it's E2 or a student visa, once you graduate from university, right, EB5 gives you the liberty to be able to work wherever you want without having to depend on a corporate sponsorship. I think that's a really big advantage as well.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question in Spanish. I can attempt to say it again if Francisco or your team, if you want to be able to pose that question.
Yes, I will be happy to help. But I see one that is in English in the chat, in the question.
Okay. Then I can answer. Okay.
Okay, I'll be happy to help.
So we have someone that says Francisco basically helped them get the E2 visa, and he's thanking you, Francisco. And they're not able to move and live in the USA. What are the benefits they would have to get from the EB5? So they have basically, just so I understand, it's saying we're not able to live in the USA. I don't know if that's true. So you have the E2. So Francisco, I'm not really sure if you know that situation or you can clarify for the client, for your client.
Sure. I think where the question what they're trying to get answered with that question is, we have an E2 that allows us to live in Mexico, right? We are not required to establish our residence or
Residency.
primary residence in the United States. Would that also be the case with an EB5? And the short answer is no. Because there's a big distinction between an E2, which is a non-immigrant visa, and the requirements that it carries in comparison to an EB5 green card. So a green card does require you to establish that your primary residence is in the United States. So it doesn't mean that you cannot have a residence in Mexico. It doesn't mean that you can't be spending a good amount of time outside of the country, outside of the US, but you must show that your primary residence is in the United States. So that is a big difference between E2s and permanent residencies, but one that is important to point out.
Great. Thank you, Francisco. We have a few more people that are asking questions, but Francisco, can you briefly tell us how intense is being able to short source of funds in EB5, and what are some of the main things we need to show to help people be able to get approved for their EB5 investment?
It is quite intense. Really, the important part is being able to document the chain of how the money came from, how it was moved, and eventually how it was deployed and invested. So we really haven't had. We're very familiarized with Mexican businesses, financial institutions, how money is moved in Mexico, and so we can help our clients really. Know whether with what they have, they'll be able to show what is required in order to comply with the EB5 source of funds requirements. But it is important to be able to document it. And unfortunately, not in every case it is possible. But more often than not, we find solutions that allow us to be able to comply with those requirements. I know that was a little vague answer, but each case is very particular, and so it's
Yeah.
difficult to really hone down on specifics when it comes to source of funds. But
Oh, that's
we've
that's
had business owners who have accumulated earnings with their companies, multiple companies. We've had clients who have inherited of the funds from a family member. We have had clients who have sold assets in Mexico or elsewhere. We've had clients whose source of funds come from the proceeds that their E2 company in the United States has generated. So there's a myriad of ways in which we can source that investment that allows us to comply with what EB5 requires.
Oh, thank you, Francisco. That was great. I mean, at the end of the day, income has to be generated lawfully and documented very carefully, and it takes a very experienced immigration lawyer to be able to do that. So thank you so much for your, help in the community, Francisco. I know you're very famous for getting EB5 approvals. So we have a question. There's an individual who basically buys properties in the U.S. and they have an ITIN number. Basically, they want to see if they can get their EB5 through their own private investments. What I'll say to this individual is, unfortunately, EB5 is a very structured, high compliance investment. So a project needs to be approved for EB5, and there needs to be substantial construction, generally ground up construction or very heavy duty renovation or something to create permanent jobs. So generally to do so, people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it approved. It's kind of like going public. So it's not a very realistic approach to create your own real estate project. One can certainly create a business and employ 10 full-time people to get their EB5 visa, but just know that you're kind of managing everything, right? You have to make sure the investment is in the right area if you want it to be TA. You have to create all the jobs. You have to sustain those jobs. Your business generally should be making money. So that's really the only alternative, right? So, and Francisco, feel free to touch on that if you have anything else to say.
Yes, I mean, direct investments, which is seeking an EB5 through an investment, not in a regional center project, but rather on your own project, is highly complex and it carries a new set of risks that are mitigated quite significantly by doing investment with a reputable regional center. So, for example, we have steered away from taking EB5 cases where the investment is made through a direct investment, just because of that complexity and the risks involved. We've made a decision to steer away from that. Not to say that it is not possible, and it's a completely legal avenue through which you can seek your EB5. It just, like you mentioned, Matt, it carries a whole new set of risks, which are important to study and iron out before you choose to go that way.
Thank you, Francisco. Okay, so I know we're a little over time. If anyone is interested in EB5, please talk to Francisco to see if that's the right visa for you. Francisco, do you offer free consultations for, EB5 visa exploration?
Yes, yes. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to have a meeting with you in person here in Houston or a Zoom meeting, and we'll be happy to answer all questions that you have.
Yeah, thank you. And if anyone's interested in learning about a project or the investment side, both Manuel and I are available. Manuel is a fluent Spanish speaker too, so he can he can conversate a lot. He can answer these questions in Spanish a little better than I can, but happy to help any way we can. Feel free to get in touch. Our contact information was on the registration. And just very important to know there's some deadlines, right? So if you want to do EB5, generally you want to do it before September 30th, right? There's certain protections that expire, and definitely do it before January 1st because the investment amount is going to go up. So if most people are serious about this, just be mindful of those dates. And Francisco, how long would you say it takes you to prepare a good application?
A couple of months. We like to not feel rushed, right? Because it's a delicate process. But usually 2 to 3 months is our happy zone. So that if this, like you mentioned, Matt, if this is something that you're giving some serious thought, the time to act would be now before the grandfathering happens on September 30th, and eventually at the end of the year, like you mentioned, investment amounts are going to go up. So happy to speak with anybody who's interested in exploring this.
Thank you so much, Francisco. We'll do our best to share this recording, and if anyone reaches out, happy to share the presentation. Thank you for everyone being here. Manuel, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to speaking with some of you who are interested in learning more about EB5.
Thank you to everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.